Hi and hello everybody. Welcome to the equipment of VRE episode 2 by me, Railfan JD. Today we'll be talking about the F40PHR. Okay, so the F40PHR, or the F40 for short, started life on Amtrak because Amtrak needed the locomotive to replace the very problematic SDP-40F and P-30CH locomotives. In 1975, Amtrak took delivery of the first F40, and now I'm not going to get into a lot of the details on the start of the F40's life, as Amtrak Guy 365 has an amazing video on these locomotives. In short, the F40 and Amtrak at the time traded SDP-40Fs for F40s. EMD took some of the parts from the SDP-40 and reused them, or rebuilt them in some way, to Amtrak on the F40s. Amtrak, when they received these locomotives, designated them as F40PHRs, R standing for rebuild. They weren't riddled with issues. They were pretty good, crews liked them, not prone to derail, but towards the late 80s and early 90s, Amtrak needed a replacement. The Genesis series was ordered, and so in the late 90s, the F40 retirement began. The F40s were officially retired from Amtrak's roster in 2002. VRE purchased 6 F40PHRs from Amtrak in 2007, those being the following former Amtrak locomotives: former Amtrak 403, 392, 364, 365, 295, 311, and finally 316. Before which, coming to VRE, they were sent to NS's Juniata shops for a rebuild. When they got at Amtrak's Juniata shops, the locomotives were seen in their new VRE liveries, numbered V30 to V36, respectively. VRE took delivery of the locomotives in 2008 to take some of the workload off the GP40s. While with VRE, they had very good service lives. They were hard workers, pulling passengers to and from Washington, D.C. However, their lives with VRE were cut short. In 2009, VRE ordered 20 MP36 PH-3C locomotives. In 2010 to 2011, they were delivered. So in 2011, the F40s were no longer needed with VRE, is subsequently retired from the roster. After being sold from VRE, the F40s were sold to the following places. I'm going to go into each an individual F40 and where they are now. V30, which was also named Fredericksburg, was leased from Amtrak to VRE. When the lease was up, the locomotive, which at the time was former Amtrak 403, was given back to Amtrak and now sits at Amtrak's Beech Grove, Indiana shops, where it now sits, hopefully waiting for a new life, which will probably never come. V31 and V33 were sold to Railworld Industries and leased to EXO. After the lease ended, V31, which at that point was renumbered to AMT 310, was sold to LATX, where it now sits. V32 was sold to Metra and is now being used as Metra 217, where it was rebuilt again, where it now is still pushing and pulling passengers in Chicago, Illinois. V33 was renumbered to EXO 330, and after its lease with EXO was done, Railworld Industries sold the locomotive to SLC, another leasing company, and leased the locomotive to the MBTA in 2015. It was then sold again to LATX for a very short time, where it was then picked up by the Grand Canyon Railway. They keep coming up in a lot of these episodes, dang. Where it now was rebuilt again and is now back to its original number for the Grand Canyon, and is now pulling passengers for the Grand Canyon Railway. You can still see this locomotive on the Grand Canyon to this day. Now, on to V34, was also sold to LATX, unfortunately, where it now sits dormant, waiting for a new life. V35, quite the interesting story here. was sold to a private owner, which I couldn't find which, was cosmetically restored to its original Amtrak Phase 3 livery, and has a reporting mark WEBX311. If anyone has any info on this locomotive, any whereabouts or where it is, because it popped up on YouTube for a short time and then just happened to disappear off the face of the earth. So if you have any info on it, please feel free to comment on this video and let me know. I just talked about that one. V36 was unfortunately sold to LETX. To end this video off, in conclusion, the F40's had a short but successful life with VRE and, well, long one with Amtrak. But now we can see these locomotives survive in a new area, as Grand Canyon still has one, and 311 if we can ever figure out what happened to it. I just want to thank you all for watching this episode, as it took me a good amount of time to make. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Thank you.